love you too, and I love this town. The danger might come back so often, I may not leave. This is God's country, man. What a beautiful town. I really mean it. Let me start off by thanking President Treadwell. She is here on a Saturday morning. She needs this like another hole in her head, but thank you for coming, Madam President. And I also want to state that, there's a lot of things that I want to talk about today, but I have a tradition that I've honored since, and most people do, since I've been involved in national politics. I never criticize the president's foreign policy when he is abroad, and I mean that sincerely. So I'll have a lot more to say, and I did yesterday, about the president's foreign policy and what's going on at the G7 and what is in fact going on with Russia, etc., which has me greatly concerned, but I'm not going to take the time today. So it's an omission by intention, because I don't think it's appropriate for me to be criticizing an American president when they're abroad engaging in a foreign policy. As it relates to foreign policy. And I want to say to Eric, Eric, you're doing a great job for an awful lot of warriors that come home in real tough shape. I showed Eric when I have a schedule I've carried every day for the last 470 years. But on the back for the last, I think now it's almost 12 years, I carried with me, I have a little black box that I have on the bottom here. And I want to have my staff every single morning, now you can do it online, contact the Defense Department. And I want to know exactly the number of fallen angels that have died or been wounded. And as of today, yesterday when I spoke, it was 6,883. Unfortunately today it's 6,885. And troops wounded, 52,806. Because I hate it when people say, well, we're over 5,000 or over 6,000. Every one of these women and men, and some of them belong to you, every one of these fallen angels has left an entire community behind, and they deserve to be remembered. But folks, what Eric is doing is working with these folks. What's not on this list, that's okay, don't worry about it. What Eric is not on this list is there's roughly 300,000 soldiers as a consequence of Iraq and Afghanistan since we went in, who in fact are coming home with post-traumatic stress. More people are dying of suicide, more military personnel are dying of suicide than there are being killed in action. And we have to pay attention to it. And it relates to everything from mental health straight through to drug abuse, which in many cases is a mental health problem, to substance abuse across the board. And folks, it also results in actions and activities that are almost beyond their control. And so we have an obligation, and I want to thank you, Eric, for your commitment to, as a lieutenant in the United States Navy, to continue to fight for these women and men. And there's many things to talk about today. And obviously, I'm not going to trespass on too much of your time because it could keep you standing for hours. But folks, let me begin by saying what I'm not going to talk about, but just mention briefly. I think what's happening now, as of yesterday, the Trump administration has filed a brief and gone to the Supreme Court of the United States to say that LGBTQ people have no civil rights as because of their gender. No, I mean he's already challenging the right to marry, to ban transgender service members, removing Title IX protections from students. We have to pass the Equality Act, which one day some of you who are involved in this know what I'm talking about, and under my administration we'll get it passed. You know, when I launched my campaign, I made my stop here right after my announcement. I said, you'll be seeing a lot of me. The bad news is you'll be seeing a lot of me. because it's really important. You guys hold one of the two keys to the gate, to get through the gate. And this is, I have to admit to you, I get in trouble with my staff nationally when I say this, but God, this is God's country. Oh, yeah. You guys are lucky to be where you are. But look, you know, I said when I launched it, you see a lot of me, but I meet here this morning, and there's something I think that is truly frightening for not only our nation, but for the world. This administration is actually, it seems to me, to be falling apart. When the pressure of the economy teetering on a recession, I think we're all concerned about their ability to handle not just the economic piece of it, but the emotional consequences of what happens to them. You know, the trade war with China is blowing up. We just learned that the United States created 500,000 fewer jobs than thought in this administration last year. Warning signs from an inverted bond market to collapse of manufacturing are all around us. And we're only going to make, I think, this administration act more erratically. You know, there's a lot to say about international relations, as I said, but I'm going to keep that for another day and keep with my tradition. The simple truth is President Trump is in trouble, and he knows it. And we're going to have to fight even harder to push back against the worst instincts that are going to come out of this administration. I predict they're going to increase. I'm not going to diminish, they're going to increase. I've said it many times in this campaign. We can overcome 4 years. Can y'all hear me in the back? We can overcome 4 years of President Trump's administration. But if we give it another 4 years, this White House that he will run in will fundamentally forever change and alter the character of this country, in my view. So which brings me to the point. We can't just be a campaign about beating President Donald Trump. He's trafficking in some of the ugliest and darkest forces that have long run through this nation's history. A simple campaign is not enough to beat him. It has to be a movement. It has to be a movement grounded on the values and ideals that define us as a nation. America's unique in all the world. No other nation was founded the way we are. We hold these truths self-evident, that all men and women are created equal, endowed by their Creator. No nation has ever been founded on that principle. We, the people, in order to form a more perfect union, it's unique in history. No nation, no tyrant can take us down. Only America can rip itself apart. And so this has to be a movement to stand up for who we are and what we believe. And we Democrats have a special responsibility. I think an obligation to do more than just win. Folks, President Wilson, I believe, was the one who said that a party is worth no more than that for which it stands. We have to stand for the country. We have to repair the moral fabric of this country. The conservative columnist talks about, he said, there's an invisible moral fabric that holds up society. And it's being ripped. It's being rended. It has to be restored. We have to reach beyond our party, in my view. We have to unify the country. And we have to restore the soul of the nation. You know, we have to be what we once were again. We never fully lived up to our obligations. But we never walked away from them before. We never abandoned them completely. But we have to be a nation that values honesty and decency, treating everyone with respect and dignity, giving everyone a fair shot, leaving nobody behind, giving hate no safe harbor, demonizing no one, not the poor, the immigrant, the other, as is happening now, and lending the power of our example, not just the example of our power, lead that way, and standing as a beacon for the world, remembering that we're part of something bigger than ourselves. We all know in our gut that this election is different. Not because I'm running. No, really, because people will think I'm saying about me. We all know in our gut it's different. We know. The words that presidents say matter. They can move markets. They can send our brave women and men to war. They can bring peace. They can appeal to our better angels, or they can unleash the deepest, darkest forces in this nation. Ladies and gentlemen, we are in a battle for the soul of America. That's why I'm running for president. That's why I'm running. The second reason I'm running and by the way, you know, can you think of any president who, when you saw what happened in Charlottesville, said they're good people on both sides? No president has ever said anything like that. Closest you can come is before the war to Andrew Johnson. But there's a second reason I'm running. I'm running because we have to restore the backbone of this country, the middle class. Wall Street didn't build America. You built America. My mother and father built America. It was built by hard-working, ordinary people doing extraordinary things. That's the journey of the history of this country. You know, my dad used to have an expression. He'd say it all the time after he lost a job up in Scranton and had to move because coal died. He wasn't a coal miner. If you listen to Barack, you'd think I climbed out of a coal mine with a lunch bucket in my hand. My dad was a salesperson, but there was no work. And he'd always say, Joey, a job is about a lot more than a paycheck. It's about your dignity. It's about respect. It's about your place in the community. It's about being able to look your child in the eye and say, honey, it's going to be okay, and mean it. You know, a lot of you know people, maybe some of you have had to do it, from the Great Recession we had. A lot of people have to make that longest walk. I call the longest walk a parent can make is up a flight of stairs to tell their son or daughter, you can't go back to the same school, honey. Mommy, daddy lost their job. You're going to go home and live with grandpa for a while, etc. But today, so many, when my dad had made that long walk when I was a kid, and he said it's going to be okay, he meant it. He meant it. And he thought it could happen, and it happened. But today, many people don't believe that. They can't do that. We have to change this. The majority of the middle class people think their kids will never have the chance they had. That's not happening. We're no longer the wealthiest middle class in the world. And I know I'm called middle class Joe, and it's not meant as a compliment, means I'm not sophisticated, but I'm pretty darn sophisticated about what built the nation. And folks, here's the deal. The reason why we need a strong middle class, the middle class does well, everybody does well. The poor go way up and the wealthy do very well. And folks, the reason for America's social, political, and economic stability through difficult times has been a strong middle class, believing anything's possible. And we're losing that now. My North Star as president will be rebuilding the middle class, and this time bringing everybody along. Everybody. And by the way, I have a number of brilliant economists who work for me. When you ask them to define middle class, they'll give you a number. 52,100 or 50. It's not a number. It's a value set. It's being about being able to own your own home and not rent it if that's what you want to do. Be able to send your kid to a park where you know they're going to come home safely. Be in a situation where you can send your kid to a local public school. If they do well, they'll be able to go on beyond school. And if they do qualify to go beyond, you can figure out a way to pay for it. Being able to take mom home after your dad passes away and help your children never have to take care of you. You have a little breathing room. It's a value set. But every American, in order to be able to have that value set, it matters to every family that there be a good education, an economic opportunity, access to affordable health care, a climate that you can breathe the air and drink the water.
Earth is not negotiable. We need to get off fossil fuels. I'm a science teacher. There's no middle ground, sir. We need to get off fossil fuels now, please. There's no middle ground. We don't have time.
I don't have a middle ground. I have the most
off, all the way off. No fracking. No frackus, quote.
Okay.
Off.
All right. Look, well, you can frack with me later, okay? Maybe we can talk.
We don't have time to wait till later, sir.
I'm happy to talk to you about it in detail.
Thank you.
Okay? All right. All right. Anyway, by the way, I agree with her. Here's the deal. What we have to, in order to people to maintain their dignity, you have to be able to have the ability to have a health care plan that's affordable and decent. Because what happens when you have a sick child with a pre-existing condition and you look at that child, there's nothing you can do about it. Not only is that child in trouble, it deprives you of your dignity. Or you're being told somewhere along the line that, you know, you have a husband, wife, son, or daughter who has terminal cancer. And they say, by the way, how many of you have lost someone to cancer and or anyone you love to cancer and or are you dealing with it? It's the same in every single crowd I speak to. You know what I'm talking about. And I can't imagine. I can't imagine what it'd be like when my son Bo, a decorated veteran coming home from the war in Iraq for a year, and 2 years later contracting terminal cancer. They gave him only months to live. He outlived the months, but he didn't outlive the prognosis. He was the Attorney General of the state of Delaware. He was determined to finish his job, and he did. But I can't imagine in the last several months if someone came in when I'm looking at my daughter-in-law and my 2 grandchildren while I was lying there in bed in pain, if an insurance company were able to come in and say, by the way, your time's up, you've outrun your coverage. In fact, you're finished. Folks, it's about not only the health of our families, it's about what's the worst thing for a parent? To look at a child with an opportunity or a problem and know there's nothing you can do to help them. Nothing you can do to help them. But that doesn't have to be this way. You know, that's why we need to finish the job on health care. When we passed the Affordable Care Act, I told President Obama it was a big deal, or something to that effect. I did not know. Thank God my mom wasn't around. Anyway. But, you know, he made historic progress in extending health insurance to some 20 million people. Americans didn't have it before. And maybe most important, he provided for the first time protections for 100 million people with pre-existing conditions. We now got to finish that job. We've got to make health care a right, not a privilege. Give everyone the peace of mind that they deserve. For me, that means a public option. It's the fastest, most cost-effective way to get universal coverage by protecting and building on Obamacare while increasing access and reducing costs. And when it comes to education, my wife, who is a teacher, she's teaching now. She's back in the classroom at a community college where she teaches in Northern Virginia. And she says, she has an expression, any country that out-educates us will out-compete us. We have to make sure every child gets an education, regardless of their race, their parents' income, their zip code, or if they have a disability. We have to eliminate the funding gap that exists between minority white and majority white and non-white districts, between rich and poor districts. That's why I put a plan in to take Title I funding, which is for distressed schools and districts, and triple the amount of money we spend, from $15 to $45 billion. We need to bring everything in our power to confront the climate. Investing $400 billion, as no one else has suggested, in research and energy to accelerate innovation. Partnering with farmers and ranchers to develop the next generation of biofuels and working with farmers for cover crops to capture carbon. Building clean energy infrastructure from a nationwide network of 500,000 charging stations for electric vehicles and have them all in place by 2030 for the 21st century railroad system that you need one here in your state, by the way, in my view. Putting America on a course to net zero emissions and clean energy economy. Folks, finally I'm running for president because I believe we need to unify this nation. I know I find it fascinating. Some of my 300 opponents, and I'm only joking, there's an awful lot of really qualified people running. But I know I'm being attacked for being naive about being able to pull the nation together. Well, if we can't pull the nation together, we're in real deep trouble. We're not going to get anything done. We're just going to engage in the greater abuse of power by a president saying, I will by executive order do, which they have no authority to do. The only way we're going to get anything done in this country is by working together. The president has decided to be president for his base. I will be a president for every American. Every American. Everybody knows who Donald Trump is. We got to let them know who we are. Who we are. We choose hope over fear. We choose unity over division. truth over lies, and science over fiction. Come on, folks. Let me conclude because I'm keeping you standing too long. Here's the deal. You know, I get frustrated. The press is probably tired of hearing me say this. But I get frustrated with Democrats and Republicans walking with their heads down going, oh, what are we going to do? We're in such trouble. Folks, there is not a single thing beyond this nation's capacity. When I got elected when I was 29 years old to the Senate, not old enough to be sworn in, they said I was a young idealist and an optimist. I'm more optimistic about America's chances in the 21st century than ever been in my entire life. We have to first get rid of Donald Trump. Think about it. We're the largest economy in the world. We have more great research universities in the United States than all the rest of the world combined, and you own them. We are in a position where, in the United States of America, where our workers are 3 times as productive as they are in Asia. What are we worried about? What are we worried about? It's time to remember who we are. On the health front, why don't we set up, which I'm going to do, in the Department of Health, a section just like they have in the Department of Defense. It's called DARPA, Advanced Research Projects. Why aren't we doing the same thing in healthcare? We should be putting away over the next 4 years $100 billion to deal with Alzheimer's, to deal with the problem related to diabetes, with cancer. No other group can do that, but we can do it. We can do it, and we can get it done. Folks, the opportunities. This young man standing here in the front, his generation is going to see more incredible change if we move forward, if we're able to take back this country, than in the next 10 years, than the rest of you and all of us have seen in the last 50 years. We're on the verge of so much that can be done. I really mean it. And so this is a genuine opportunity. An opportunity not only to take out Donald Trump, the President of the United States, who's standing in the way of all these things, but to unite the country in a common purpose. A common purpose. The fact of the matter is, the vast majority of the American people, Democrat and Republican, agree on the issues within a span that's rational. But it's our politics that are broken. They're ugly. They're mean. They're no longer, and they're directed by the White House that is now preaching division based on race, religion, ethnicity, sexual orientation. I mean, it's just wrong. We got to bring it back together. And so, folks, I'll be back and going into great detail, and I'm happy to do it and provide for all of you the ability to know in great detail my position on all of these issues in detail. But, folks, one thing for certain, I promise you, the United States of America will, in fact, own the 21st century if, in fact, we invest in our people, remember who we are, and remember, it is we the people. We the people. God bless you all, and may God protect our troops. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Which way am I going?
He's going to come down the line. I apologize for not letting in front of me. I hope you understand now. I'm a science teacher. I'm concerned about climate change and fighting for your future. Okay. I didn't want to say that before, so I apologize.
I just don't want that to get stripped down, so can I ask for this? Oh, yeah, nice. Fed check. At least.
Come a long way, baby. You know I hope and I pray that you believe me when I say this love will
Hold it.
fade away. Oh,
Biden's tongue. I really like it. In a good location. But a lot of people come here like start Remember where we were? We were over by the golf. Oh, that was different now. I'm talking when she was at Keene State. I mean, Keene High That was the Keene State place.
a man walks down the street, he says, why am I soft in the middle now? Why am I soft in the middle? The rest of my life is so hard. I need a photo opportunity. I want a shot of redemption. Don't want to end up a cartoon graveyard. Lonely, dogs in the night. Far away, my willing Mr. Beer, get these mutts away from me, you know. I don't find this stuff amusing anymore. If you be my bodyguard, I can be your long-lost pal. I can call you Betty when you call me.
He told you that? I don't know anything about it.
A man walks down the street and says, why am I short of attention? Got a short little span of attention. Oh, my nights are so long. Where's my wife? What if I die here? Who'll be my role model? Now that my role model is gone. Look back down the alley with some road with that face girl. All along, there were incidents and accidents, there were hints and allegations. If you be my bodyguard, I can be your long-lost pal. I can call you Betty when you call me. Call me out, call me out.
Folks, I just need you to be careful with we're just pressing on the rope a little too much, ma'am. I just want you to be careful. Thank you.
Did they get a photo last time?
The ones over that area.
Holds no currency. He is a foreign.
Yeah, I think what I'm saying is maybe waiting on it, right?
He looks around and around. Sees angels in the architecture, spinning in infinity. Says, hey, hallelujah, you be my bodyguard.
I can't.
I can call you ready, ready when you want me. Call me.
Yeah. That doesn't matter. Her music is I went to one of the and I love the music. That's actually really great. Yeah. I've seen it 4 times.
I don't know what other citizens
I think Amy's over there waiting to videotape. Woo! Not going anywhere until I talk to him. Hey Frank, I see your message. Hey Terry. Getting closer.
Sorry, what was your name, Diana? Yes. What's your name? Spell that for me. Like that?
Quiet invite. I know. I normally see it. Hey, Kaden.
There might be something in the way.
Well, I don't necessarily follow in my advance, I will, but it's not released yet, so I can't tell you, but, it'll be there in a week or so. It may be an early state. Oh, for him? I think we're headed to the airport. Ma'am, I'm sorry.
You're not doing all of it.
Yes, I set this up.
You got your
Props. It's awesome.
Thank you.
grandmother's dream. You got your daddy's discern.
So did you register me too?
Girl, you did your thing.
No, because
Oh,
you're not a
give
voter.
me one more. 1, 2, 1, 2, always on me. You must have been born with 2 right feet. I know you've been looking for something concrete. You must have been born with 2 right feet. So 1, 2, 1, 2, always on me. I know you've been looking for something concrete. You must have been born with 2 right feet. You must have been born with 2 right feet. Said, I love you more than your mother. More than you love yourself.
Oh gosh, like 5. So how are you gonna give me back my wait?
We might have to hang out a little bit, but
Yeah, I know that the rules and the weight of the world can get inside of my mind. So much sometimes. I know. Baby, don't let the lows and the ups and the downs from a roller coaster ride beat you up inside. Baby, don't. But if you ever feel that way, don't you ever hesitate. You got my number, you can call on me. If you're in trouble, you can fall on me when you're mad.
You can bring it in later. That's what I'm really doing.
Count on me. When you're low, when you're high on me. Make it slow, take your time on me. Settle in, let it out, come and lay on me. When it gets heavy, wait on me. Baby, put it all on me. Put it all on me. I wanna take you out on the town on my dime anytime. Tell me when you're free. We can do anything and everything you want. Oh, I wanna hear all your fears and your troubles. Strip it down, really get to know one another. When it's nobody but you and me, just us. Girl, you know I'm here for you. You can lean on me anytime you need to. Got my number, you can call on me. If you in trouble, to fall on me when you're mad. You can take it out on me.
Someone's asking me to take selfies.
Left your life on me, all on me. Got my number, you can call me. If you in trouble, follow me. When you're mad, get out on me. When you know that you can count on me. When you know you can get high on me. Make it slow, take your time on me. Sure. Come and lay on me. When it gets heavy, put the weight on me. Baby, put it on me. Yeah, baby, put it on me.
Union girl here, Mr. Vice President.
Very versatile. He'll take your phone.
Oh, thank you, man. Oh, thank you. Thank you very much. What's your name? Good to see you, bro. Oh, thank you. You guys together? Oh, what's your name? How are you?
On a plane bound.
Good to see you. How are you? Excuse me, please. I tell you, I know East Stroudsburg. I'm one of the few people here that do.
I went to college with Jim Connors.
Sure I do. All right, man.
I know, you're getting smushed.
Thank you for not having that place is way too lonely. I work here on the ground.
You work here?
Yes. I'm on the ground getting it.
Yeah, let me get this one.
We're getting there, buddy.
How are you? What's your name?
Can't wait to hear my name's Dylan. I'm over here at Keene State College, and
Pretty cool college.
yeah, it's pretty cool. Yeah, we've been touring college this whole weekend.
Where else did you go?
Letterbox.
I'll tell you in a minute. Alright. They're having a hard time waiting.
Oh, no, I'm sorry.
No, I know. Thank you so much.
Well, let's get a picture.
I'll be going.
Oh my god.
Got the best fun on campus, which might take us home.
Alright, Kate, get up there, because it's not. Don't worry, you won't leave.
The faculty member like you at Penn.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah.
What do you teach?
Well, I'm in medical school.
The medical school.
Medical officer.
Oh, it's a family night, kid. We need to
It's very claustrophobic. Do you want him to sign this one, Hayden? Oh, look at that. Well, maybe sign this one for you. Oh, you got one.
It's a pleasure to meet you, Mr. Vice President.
You got to take a look at my plan, okay? And there's no other suggestion you go to zero emissions today.
I feel like you can go. Here, I'll move that.
Well, you're shorter. I don't want to be in front of you.
Is the earliest time anyone thinks we get to zero, but we can make massive progress right now.
I love it.
I live here in the my name is Stephanie Sharp.
Stephanie,
I'm
find me
concerned
one
about
person who
gas
said-
being still considered a bridge fuel. This entire region is getting, we just fought off Kinder Morgan pipeline, now we're fighting off the Liberty Utilities Granite Ridge pipeline.
And I agree with
I'm
both
a teacher, my students are scared, the world is on fire.
It is, literally.
Yes, sir.
Literally. But here's the deal. What we should be doing immediately, I call for putting 500,000 actual places along all highways. I know you're taping it, so you don't have to be coy with it, okay?
Oh,
the fact of the
no,
matter,
sir, my friends are interested in what you have to say.
No, I understand that. But there's 500 recharging stations should be put in now. Well, guess what? I'm the only guy proposing it. I got a plan for it. Meaning, we should be tripling offshore, doubling offshore wind now. Now. We should go back to
what about getting off fossil fuels? How long will you take to do that? Till 2040, 2045?
To get totally off fossil fuels, at least till 2035. Find me some scientist who tells you to get off quicker than that.
You said Jay,
Find me some.
Plan. What about $25 an hour minimum wage for renewable energy workers to move them out of fossil fuels?
That's what we're doing. I don't know. Come on. Take a look at the fossil fuel plan we put together. Come on, you don't know a single person in the world who thinks we're off fossil fuels before 2030.
I don't want to.
No one believes that. The earliest time is 2040. Find me somebody. Be a teacher. Know the science.
Thank you, sir. Interesting response.
How are you?
May we have a picture?
Who's that guy?
I don't know this kid.
I know this kid.
Oh, you know, is that your, that's your sister?
My sister.
I don't know, something about yeah.
You just got my vote.
Thank you, Joe.
Do I need to put it in front of them? I'm like following.